When we started designing Cabins on the Cumberland, we didn't start with paint colors, we didn't start with floor plans, we didn't even start with like what furniture is going to go in what room. We started with the feeling. This is day 10 in the making of a micro resort and defining our guest experience. When we were imagining what this place was going to be, we asked ourselves, how do we want guests to feel? What are guests going to feel when they have an experience here? Not what do we want them to see, not what do we want them to post. What do we want them to feel in their bodies when they are here? The answer came back to these three things: ease, connection, and play. We wanted this to be the place where families and groups didn't have to work to have a good time, where parents could relax because the kids are totally entertained, where no one needs a plan for every minute because everything is right here, and the nature, the natural setting is so beautiful. So we designed for that experience. We also kept in mind thoughtful hospitality throughout every part and every touch point that we have with guests. We want guests to feel thought of, to feel cared for, to feel held in their experience at Cabins on the Cumberland. It's honestly the biggest compliment when guests say they thought of things that I didn't even know I needed. Gathering spaces to invite people to reconnect with one another, nights by the fire, telling stories. Inside each cabin feels like your own little private oasis. That escape you need from the outside world to just be together. Activities that are built in so fun doesn't require so many logistics, which is the reason we have the pickleball and basketball court, the playground, the game center. Rituals that ground you, that also can become traditions. Things like morning coffee on the front porch. I'm not kidding you when I tell you that the majority of our guests spend so much time on the front porch of their cabin. Sunset walks down by the water, late night conversations in the hot tub. We knew that this was not going to be a place that guests come and visit one time. We knew that this was going to be a tradition, and that is very much built in to every part of Cabins on the Cumberland. Join me for day 11 because we're going to talk about how we had a direct booking strategy before we ever even opened up our calendars.